Well, Mr. Vice President, we certainly know why you're here in the Commonwealth today. But share your thoughts on the tax cuts and the new tax reform codes, because I think everybody's wondering, not just limited to everyone's paycheck, how it will impact everyone in a positive way going forward, across the board, short and long term.
Well, I came here to Kentucky today really just to say thanks to the good people of Kentucky for supporting a president, supporting leaders in Congress who've been busy keeping the promises that we made to the people of this great state. We've been rolling back red tape. We've been appointing conservatives to the federal courts across this country. But chiefly, we were here today to make sure the people of Kentucky know how grateful we are for the support that made it possible for President Trump to sign the largest tax cuts and tax reform in American history. And as you said, literally from the day the president signed the bill, we've been seeing impacts all across this country. $480 billion by companies have been announced to be invested in American jobs and American free enterprise since the tax cut was passed. 4.3 million Americans have either received a bonus or been told they're receiving a pay raise. That doesn't even take into account the fact that 9 out of 10 people in Kentucky are actually going to see their taxes lower as a result of this. Wages are rising. It's a great good news story, and it wouldn't be possible without the support the President and I enjoyed here in Kentucky.
As you know, before Parkland, Florida, we had a school shooting here in Western Kentucky, lost 2 lives. I think when those happen, the emotions, left or right, take over. It clouds sound, reasonable judgment, logical judgment. So what to you, void of emotion, would be a logical solution for what has become a problem, without, of course, trampling the rights of those who believe strongly in the Second Amendment?
Well, Michael, first let me say our hearts go out to the families of those that were lost and are recovering from injuries in Marshall County. I think the whole nation grieved that unspeakable act of violence that took place in January, only to be followed by Parkland, Florida. But look, President Trump believes that no parent should ever fear for the safety of their child when they drop them off at school. I mean, and the truth is, this has been going on since Columbine, which is nearly 20 years ago. And invariably, we mourn with those who mourn and grieve with those who grieve as a nation, but too often Congress has simply failed to act. And President Trump, while respecting the constitutional rights of Americans, is absolutely determined that this time will be different. And we're calling on the Congress to embrace bipartisan legislation that'll strengthen background checks, that'll give our schools new resources and tools to make our kids safe, and frankly, that'll give families the ability to intervene where they have a family member struggling with a dangerous mental illness. And the time has come for us to work together in Washington, D.C., and the President has been meeting with law enforcement. He's been meeting with families from Parkland and listening to families affected by these incidents all over the country. And we're going to continue to work very earnestly and work in such a way that we can know, with stronger background checks, more tools for law enforcement and families, that we truly have taken action to make our schools safer.
Mr. Cohen's departure leads to my next question, your thoughts on the aluminum and steel tariff. Some believe in it strongly, others feel it could be a hindrance.
Well, President Trump and our entire administration believe that for too many years, too many countries have taken advantage of the most powerful economy on earth in the United States of America. That's why we're renegotiating the NAFTA agreement, and we're very encouraged at the progress that we're making in those negotiations with Mexico and Canada. But the action the President announced last week has to do as much with our national security as with our national economy. I mean, the truth is that for our national security, the Congress years ago gave the President the authority to impose tariffs to make sure that we have a vibrant and strong steel and aluminum industry. And because of dumping by certain countries over the years and overall trade practices, we've seen an erosion of our steel and aluminum industry. And the President is working through the details about implementing those tariffs. But he's absolutely determined to make sure that here in the United States of America, we have a sufficient steel and aluminum industry to meet the national security and the economic needs of our nation in the future. Now, that will create discussions with other countries, and I know the European Union some leaders have threatened some reaction to that, but the President and I truly do believe that by putting American jobs and American workers first in the trade policies and negotiations, we're going to have more productive and more honest relations with countries around the world.
I'm being told to wrap. One last thing, can you put a premium, an emphasis on how important these midterm primaries coming up in 2 months and then the general in November will be to the president's agenda going forward?
Well, the president and I couldn't be more grateful for the strong support that we've had from Kentucky's leaders in the Congress and from Republican majorities in the House and in the Senate. And that and governor's races around the country, the president and I are absolutely determined to make sure that just like we threw out the playbook in 2016 with the president's historic victory, that in this first midterm election after the president's election, we're going to make sure that those that have been standing with us around the country have the support in every appropriate way of this administration. I mean, but the truth is, for all that we've done, rolling back red tape, cutting taxes, expanding American energy, rebuilding our military, President Trump and I believe that we're just getting started. And so making sure that we have strong conservative partners in the House and Senate and state houses around the country will continue to be a priority for us in the rest of this year.
Mr. Vice President, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Good to see you.